after being in Sweetwater and seeing, you know, the statue dedicated, the wall dedicated, we ended up going back through Sweetwater, and on that trip, we came across the shack that the city of Sweetwater had put up. And it was adorable. It was a little bitty hangar, and it had a Fifi on it, and it had a sign on front. And when we went to see the statue dedication, it was brand new. Everything was perfect. When we went back through, we had been in an air show in Midland. We came back through, and that little shack had gotten rained on, and the wind blew just like it does in Sweetwater. And everything inside that shack that wasn't laminated was destroyed, and the things that were laminated were coming apart because of the heat and the rain. Anyway, it was sad. And when we were leaving, we talked about it all the way home. You know, why isn't there something? We could do something. We could put something electronic in that little shack so that people, when they come see the statue and they'd come see the wall, they would see things about the WASP, and we could make it permanent. So that's when we started thinking about putting something in Sweetwater. And honestly, no, we didn't think about a museum. We didn't think about anything but just telling the story right there by the fountain and by the wall. And so we started with the fact that we're at TSTC Sweetwater. We have a TSTC Waco. Let's get together with some of our TSTC people. And anyway, so our first meeting for all of that was with Homer Taylor. And we had he came to Waco. He was the chancellor or the president of TSTC Sweetwater. He came to Waco and saw our offices and some of the pictures that I had been putting up of the WASP that we had interviewed. And we had a little kind of mini museum there. And he was very impressed. He thought it was fun. And he said, how can we do this in Sweetwater? And we said, well, we kind of like, we could do a kiosk, we could do video, we could do, you know, something to engage people who could then learn about these women and how extraordinary they are. And so we had that, and then a series of things happened. The chancellor, the vice chancellor at TSTC, Michael Bettersworth, got involved and said, I'll help if I can. And so we started to have meetings with people that could say yes or could pass it up the chain, certainly starting with Homer. And Homer then brought in his assistant, Johnny Lou.
Taylor, who was the president of TSTC and a big historian, he had asked to meet with Deanie, who he knew was a WASP, and her daughter that had offices at Baylor University, and he was going there for a meeting. And so when he got home from that meeting, he said, we're going to start working on a museum, and you must take my place because I don't have time for it. So that's how I got involved. And from that minute on, Deanie and Nancy and I were just working our little heads off, trying to get interest. And
once we started kind of sharing this idea, we finally decided we can't just build a kiosk, an electronic kiosk in a little shack. We need to build a museum.
And that's when we were able to put together a beginning board. And we knew it needed to be much wider, not only geographically, but wider in expertise. But this beginning board was so important. And Dick and Sandra Spears were two of our very first people that we asked. And we put together that beginning board, and they were the ones that really did all the legwork. And it was wonderful.
So on that next year, we started meetings to see what we needed to do to, in order to start the organization, start the process. It took us several years to find a place where the museum could be. At one time, we went through the process of trying to construct a museum completely from scratch and went to Texas Tech, and they worked on plans and everything.
Renderings that the architects presented to us when the final dollars came in, they were between $5 and $7 million. I got in, I think, with the initial board of trustees, and I believe that was in the late 2003 or early 2004, and it was in the initial stages of it, and I was very impressed with the enthusiasm and the zeal that Nancy Parrish and her mother, Deanie Parrish, had in the formation of the museum, as well as Gary Pace and Peter Fox and Sandra Spears.
When we first started, Nancy and Deanie came and toured the facilities out here at the airport, and Deanie said, "That old blue hangar, I remember it so well."
And finally, the city said they would lease this lovely building to us. And it was, believe it or not, it was really exciting, because we not only had the building, but we had 57 acres around that building that we could use however we wanted. And the fee was just perfect for us, $1 a year. So this is where we began the construction of the museum in 2005. And there had to be a lot of demolition done, believe it or not. And we were very fortunate at that time that there was a prison here, and we had prison labor that could come and work on the building. Our fee for having the prison labor was to feed them lunch every day. And it was amazing what they would do for a barbecue sandwich. Now, all of this process happened in about a 4-month period, because our goal was to be open on May the 28th, 2005, which was the anniversary of the date that the first class of WASP graduated from Avenger Field. So that was our goal, and we were going to have a big dinner party. We didn't know exactly what, but we were going to do something on that date and have the unveiling of the museum. And that was quite a task. This was a grassroots effort. Everybody in the community that could help came out to help. Whoever showed up to work, that's who was working that day or night, because most of the time it was after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when people got off work, that they came out here to work on the museum.
I can remember, people that have real jobs and are, real judges and things, who were in the hangar sweeping before we opened the doors. So, it took the community, and it wasn't just Sweetwater. We had people from Nashville.
I can remember Walmart opened at the same year that we did here, and that was very fortunate, because we not only got a $500 grant from Walmart, but that's where I went. Usually it would be about midnight that I would leave here and go to Walmart and get the paint mixed that we were going to use the next day, so that we would have the paint and everything that we needed. And it was so handy to have Walmart here that was open at midnight so that I could have the paint mixed. We had Henson Flooring that did the carpeting and the tile work and so forth in the building that we needed. Sweetwater Concrete did all of the concrete. Sweetwater Steel provided the rebar that had to go into the concrete and anything else that we needed. These were all people that were donating their time, their product, USG, of course, donated that sheetrock that we so diligently hung. If it had not been for the city of Sweetwater and all the people in town, we would never have gotten this done. I was so proud of the workers and everything that we had. As I said, at 5 o'clock in the evening was the time that most people showed up, and they were ready to paint. They were ready to do whatever they were assigned to do. We had bankers, lawyers, doctors, teachers, just, mothers and housewives and so forth, that everybody helped to get this place all put together within a short amount of time.
There was advertisements on the newspaper and stuff that they were refurbishing the old WASP museum, or the hangar, and I worked at TSTC as an instructor out there, and I'd drive by here every day, and so one day I thought, I'm just going to stop and see what's going on, and fell in love with it, just really did. When we first started, I helped with a lot of the construction stuff inside. We put up banners, we painted, we did a lot of painting. And then I became one of the cashiers, when I worked on the weekends because I was working full time. And I would cashier on the weekends, and a lot of times there wouldn't be anybody come through. And so I worked Saturday, so Saturday was the day I would sweep the entire hangar from one end to the other, and then I would dust everything. And then Sundays, usually I would sit, and I was studying for my bachelor's, so I was sitting studying, and then people would come in, and I would give them a tour, and tell them, I'll explain everything, how the ladies did and what they did in their lifetime there as pilots.
And it was just so wonderful to have a place for the WASP to be recognized. Their very own place. They're recognized in a small way in museums all over the United States, but this was a place of their own.
Keep people informed about these wonderful women, because their values won't change. They're mostly gone. There are very few WASP left. But those values that they lived by are inspirational, and they're contagious. And if you tell those stories, people get lifted up by their determination and their honor. And I can't think of another group that's that extraordinary, all in one place.
Well, one of the funny things is we're only talking about since 1999. That's 25 years since the idea was hatched in somebody's brain. That's not very long to go from nothing to this. And I'm just blown away by everything. I can't believe how far it's come from walking in front of that old blue hangar when they said we could have it to what it is today. It's just amazing.
This has come together magnificently, with the directors that had at that time and those that are still there. I can't say enough for the contribution that Sandra Spears has made. I think in her quiet way, she has been the backbone all the way through.
It was just it's an extraordinary memory of all of those people coming together for one purpose, and that's to honor the WASP. And it's still there, and it's still standing. And you guys have grown it to where we can all go, yes, this is what we were hoping it would be. This is what we were praying it would be. And you did it. So congratulations on 20 years. Wow. It went by it went by.